Okay, what if everything you think you know about giving your kids the best possible start in life is just plain wrong? Today, we're going to dive into the pretty wild homeschooling philosophy of a self-made millionaire. He argues that the absolute best education isn't found in some fancy elite school, but right in your own home.
This is a real question a friend actually asked him, and it's probably what most of us would think, right? Choosing to homeschool when you could literally afford any school on the planet, it sounds a little nuts. But for this guy, it's the sanest decision he could make.
See, for him, this isn't a roll of the dice. It's the complete opposite. He sees it as a carefully calculated investment. He's not putting his kids' futures at risk. He believes he's putting them on a path that's just fundamentally better than the one everybody else is on. So, what's his big problem with traditional schools anyway? Well, to really get his solution, first we have to understand the problem he sees, a problem he thinks is baked right into the DNA of our entire school system. His whole argument kicks off by looking at history. He says our school system is basically a relic. It's obsolete because it was built for a world that's long gone. Think about it. It's an industrial age, factory-style model trying to prepare kids for an age of AI and instant information. And this right here is the heart of his whole critique. He says that mass education was never, ever designed to create leaders or innovators. He sees it as a literal factory, engineered to churn out compliant workers for the industrial age, people who are great at following instructions and fitting into a system. The goal was always to create employees, not owners. So this leads him to make a really sharp distinction. On one side, you have schooling, which he says is all about compliance, following orders, and passing tests. On the other side, you have true education, which is about thinking for yourself, solving real problems, and having practical skills. One path leads to being an employee, he says, and the other leads to being an owner. And his big claim is that we've been mixing those two up for a very long time.
All right, so if the old system is a factory for employees, how do you build a new one that creates owners? Well, this is where his plan comes in. He's got a super detailed 4-pillar curriculum, and it's designed with one bold goal in mind: to forge a successor, not just a student.
He calls it his warrior curriculum, and it's built on just 4 non-negotiable pillars: language, math, science, and, believe it or not, martial arts. This whole setup isn't about getting good grades. He says it's a framework for winning in the real world.
So pillar 1 is language, but he's not talking about just any language. He's ruthlessly strategic. It's all about English and Chinese. Why? Because that's the language of global money, of tech, of finance. He wants his kids to be totally fluent, and he just dismisses the idea that this is hard. He calls that a poverty mindset that you just have to get rid of.
Next up, Pillar 2, mathematics. For him, math isn't about some abstract concept you'll never use again. It's the language of money. Simple as that. If you can't figure out profit margins or compound interest on the fly, you're going to lose in business. A rock-solid math foundation is everything, so you never get tricked in a deal.
Pillar 3 is science. He says if you pair this with math, you build a powerful, let's call it a BS detector. The goal isn't to memorize the periodic table. It's to develop the critical thinking you need to tell what's real from what's just a bunch of hot air.
And the last pillar, martial arts, has a really surprising purpose. It's not about learning to fight. It's about getting rid of fear. He believes fear holds people back from being great, and that learning a martial art builds this deep, unshakable confidence that completely changes how you carry yourself.
And look, this isn't just some theory he cooked up. He tells this really powerful story from his past about being in a refugee camp and seeing this small martial arts master use his skills not to attack anyone, but to stand up for and protect the people who couldn't protect themselves. That lesson, that strength is really about confidence and protection, stuck with him for life.
Okay, so those are the 4 pillars of hard skills. But he says the thing that really makes this system work, the true X factor, comes down to the soft skills that actually make someone a leader.
And for him, the single most important soft skill is storytelling. He has this amazing nightly ritual with his sons where they all just tell each other stories. It does 3 huge things at once. It makes them incredibly persuasive communicators, it fires up their imagination, and it creates this ridiculously strong family bond. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. What about socialization? What about friends? And yeah, this is where his ideas get really provocative.
He makes a very clear distinction between friends and allies. Friends, he says, are about emotion. But allies, which make up most of our adult relationships, are built on mutual value and respect.
And this just completely flips the script on how we think about making connections. His strategy isn't about going out to find friends. No. It's about focusing all your energy on becoming so capable, so interesting, and so valuable that other high-value people actively seek you out to be their ally. Your network, he thinks, should build itself around you.
So when you put all of these pieces together, the hard skills from the 4 pillars and the soft skills of storytelling and building allies, you finally see the ultimate vision. This is the end game of his entire system.
It all comes together in this kind of checklist for a modern warrior. You've got the language skills to operate anywhere in the world, the math skills to master money, the scientific mind to see the truth, the physical confidence to protect your family, and the communication skills to win people over.
So in the end, the goal isn't to produce a student with a nice diploma to hang on the wall. The goal is to forge a comprehensive human being who is fully equipped and absolutely ready to win.
And that leaves us with a pretty powerful question, doesn't it? It kind of forces us to think about why we do what we do. Is the purpose of education to create a good student who plays the game well, or is it to create a capable warrior ready for the real world? That's definitely something worth thinking about.
So what if everything you thought about traditional education, really thought about it, was maybe built on a model from, well, a completely different time? And what if, the real path to success for the next generation actually lies totally outside the classroom?
That's a provocative start.
Right? Guided by this self-made millionaire's pretty radical philosophy. Welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Today, we're plunging into a really extraordinary perspective on home-based education. It's drawn from this fascinating Vietnamese book, Dai Con Tai Na, Chuts Li Ren Chin Bin.
Which translates roughly as homeschooling, the warrior training philosophy.
Exactly, warrior training. And look, full disclosure here, this is not your average homeschooling guide, not at all.
No, definitely not. It's very specific. It's one self-made millionaire's intensive philosophy for raising his kids.
Yeah, and he explicitly calls them his heirs. That's the goal.
Right. But even though his methods are, let's say, unique, the principles he talks about, building resilience, financial know-how, global competence, they offer some surprisingly sharp insights, really, for anyone thinking about effective future-proof education.
Absolutely. So our mission today is to kind of unpack why he rejected prestigious international schools for his own kids.
Yeah, opting for this really intense, personalized program at home.
And see what unique takeaways this very different path might offer for you listening.
Okay, let's dive in.
So let's start where the author, his name's Ty, does. He talks about the sheer disbelief he got from his own friends.
Oh, yeah.
He mentions this friend who basically said, "Are you crazy, Ty? Not sending your child to an international school, how will they ever be successful?" You can just hear the shock, right?
Totally. And Ty's response, according to the book, was just unwavering. He said, "I'm not gambling. I'm investing in a path I believe is superior."
Wow. That's quite a statement right off the bat. What do you think is the biggest hurdle for parents to even think about this kind of radical shift? Because traditional school is just so ingrained.
It really is. And I think that friend's reaction, it hits exactly what the author sees as the core misconception society has.
Which is?
This dangerous idea that school equals education, that they're the same thing. He argues that assumption is fundamentally flawed, especially now.
And he backs that up, doesn't he? With some interesting historical context.
He does. He points out that schools, the kind we think of today, they really only popped up about 150 years ago.
Right. Industrial Revolution.
Exactly. Born out of the Industrial Revolution. And their main purpose, he argues, was to, quote, mass produce workers. People who could follow instructions, do basic math for factories.
Simple tasks, standardized output.
Pretty much. Before that, literacy wasn't widespread. It was, as he puts it, a luxury for the rich, the royalty, and the religious.
It does make you pause thinking about the origins of something we just accept as normal now.
It really does. And his main point is that this 19th century model is still basically what we have, even though the world's moved way past the industrial age, the information age.
We're in the age of AI, crypto.
Exactly. And this isn't just about shiny new tech. It means routine stuff is getting automated. Value comes from complex problem solving, from innovation, rote learning, less and less relevant.
And information itself is everywhere online now. Free.
Right. The market, he says, increasingly pays doers, problem solvers, not just people with degrees. And this fundamental shift is the absolute starting point for his whole philosophy.
Okay, so if the old model's broken, according to him, what's he building instead? Because it's fascinating. His goal isn't, raise a kid with a nice degree to show off.
No, not at all.
His objective is much bigger. He says, my goal is to train an heir, someone actually capable enough to protect and develop the assets I've poured my sweat and tears into creating.
That completely reframes the purpose of education, doesn't it? It's about legacy, continuity.
Yeah, and then he underlines it with this really direct belief. He says, a salaried teacher, no matter how good, cannot teach my child how to be a master.
Oof, that's blunt.
Very. He falls up. To learn to be a millionaire, you must learn from a millionaire.
Okay, so that really sets the stage for his approach, where he is the main architect of their learning, very hands-on.
So he's dismantled the old system in his mind.
Yeah.
How does he actually propose building something better? He doesn't just talk theory, right? He's got these pillars.
Exactly. He lays out what he calls the 4 golden pillars. It's a rigorous, non-negotiable curriculum designed to forge the kind of person he wants his kids to be.
Okay, pillar number 1.
Pillar 1, and he stresses it's number 1 for a reason, is language. The key to global treasure.
The key to global treasure. I like that.
Yeah. He sees language as the ultimate weapon in a globalized era. And for his children, 2 languages are mandatory, not just learned, but mastered like their mother tongue.
Which ones?
English and Chinese. He argues these are essential for accessing the cutting edge in tech, business, finance. That's where the key knowledge is, globally speaking.
Interesting. And he's pretty direct about other languages too, isn't he?
Yeah. Very pragmatic. He says Vietnamese or Thai, for instance, they're fine for daily chat, maybe, he says, to woo girls, acknowledging that right now they aren't where the global knowledge hubs are. He doesn't mince words.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
But there's a crucial mindset piece here too, right? About difficulty.
Yes. This is key. He explicitly forbids his kids from even thinking learning a foreign language is hard.
Forbids the thought. How?
His mantra is apparently easy peasy, your grandpa speaks 5 languages, and your dad is learning his 4th.
Wow. So it's like setting an expectation, not presenting a challenge.
Exactly. It's a psychological hack, really. Remove the mental block before it can even form. Turn this huge task into just what the family does.
That focus on immediate practical application seems to run through his whole philosophy. It's not just abstract learning.
Absolutely. It's about tools for getting things done, seizing opportunities, and that very practical, almost game theory view. It flows right into pillar number 2.
Which is?
Mathematics, the language of money and logic.
Okay, makes sense for a millionaire.
Right. He's very clear. Business is a game of numbers. If you don't understand profit, compound interest, cash flow, you're set up to fail.
So it's fundamental.
He believes strong math foundations mean his kids will never be passive when it comes to money. Even if, interestingly, he admits he uses engineers and software for the really complex stuff.
So it's not about being a math genius yourself, necessarily.
No, it's about understanding the principles so you can direct the experts, so you're in control.
Got it. Empowering them to control their financial future, not just be participants. And that financial empowerment connects to the 3rd pillar, I imagine.
Directly. Pillar 3 is science, the filter against deception.
A filter against deception. Interesting phrasing.
Yeah. Paired with math, he argues, science sharpens logical and critical thinking.
So it's about reasoning skills.
Crucially, yes. He says it's vital for telling truth from falsehood. His example is if someone comes pitching some crazy, unrealistic business idea.
Like a perpetual motion machine for profit.
Maybe. His kids should have the grounding to ask the right questions, analyze it logically, look at the data, and see the absurdity. Avoid being conned.
It's like building an internal BS detector.
Exactly. A well-honed BS detector. Essential for navigating a world that's full of opportunities, but also pitfalls.
I can definitely see the logic there. Okay, so we have language, math, science. What's the 4th pillar? This one felt a bit unexpected.
It is, maybe. It's martial arts. Forging a steel spirit and self-confidence.
Martial arts? Why? Is it about fighting?
He's very clear. It's not for aggression. It's so they never live in fear. He states flatly that a man consumed by fear cannot achieve great things. So martial arts builds inner confidence.
How does that manifest, according to him?
He talks about it leading to a steady walk, strong speech, just knowing you can handle yourself physically gives you a certain presence. And he shares this really powerful story about a man named Phong. He was a Lovina master, that's a Vietnamese martial art in a refugee camp. Yeah. Phong was apparently small, but he protected the vulnerable Vietnamese people there from bullies. And later, in a tough neighborhood in America, he commanded respect even from gangs. Not through violence, but through that inner strength.
That's quite an image.
And that lesson, the author says, profoundly impacted him. The importance of inner fortitude, of steeling the spirit.
So those are the 4 big pillars. But it's not just academics and physical training, is it? He also talks about soft skills.
Crucial soft skills, yeah. Starting with communication and storytelling. The ultimate soft weapon.
Another weapon. He likes that metaphor.
He does. And he stresses this isn't something you learn from a book. It has to be honed. Constant practice.
How does he practice it?
Well, he really walks the talk here. He apparently takes his son to actual contractor meetings, business meetings.
Really? And then what?
Afterwards, they debrief. He'll say, okay, Dad knew that guy was lying. Why?
Ah, like a case study.
Exactly. Because his numbers didn't make sense, they were illogical. His technical solution, it defied basic scientific principles. So it's real-world analysis. Learning by doing, then immediately deconstructing it.
That's pretty clever. And there's something about nighttime stories, too.
Yeah, this is great. There's this special nightly performance at home. Father and sons tell each other stories. And the rule is, the more nonsensical, the better.
Nonsensical.
Yeah, he gives an example like, once upon a time, Daddy took you to the beach, a shark bit my butt, and you two flew out and kicked the shark back into the water.
Okay, I can just picture the kids loving that.
Right. And he says that laughter is the strongest glue. It builds the emotional bond. But there are 2 other huge benefits he sees in this seemingly silly game.
What are they?
First, it obviously hones storytelling skills, how to structure a narrative, how to express ideas in a compelling way, even absurd ones. Persuasion, basically.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And the second?
Second, it stimulates creativity. It's a daily brain workout, coming up with new, crazy stuff. So it's actually a really holistic way to build a vital soft skill.
That's a brilliant practical example, embedding learning right into family life. Okay, now, we have to talk about the social side, because the first thing many people think with homeschooling is isolation. Lack of social skills.
It's a big fear, yeah.
How does he address that? He has a pretty provocative take, right? Something's about friends and allies.
He does. He tackles it head on with this phrase, friends are silver, allies are gold.
Ooh, okay. Explain that.
Well, he acknowledges the fear about isolation is common, but he thinks it comes from misunderstanding social relationships as adults.
How so?
He poses this challenge. He asks, would you let your absolute best friend stay alone with your wife or your daughter or your mother when you're out of town?
That's a tough question.
Right. And he says, if you hesitate even for a second, that's not a best friend, that's an ally.
Wow. Okay, so what's the distinction for him?
True friends, he argues, are built on shared history, deep time. Lots of emotion may be more common when you're young. Allies, on the other hand, are built primarily on mutual interests, shared goals, respect.
And he thinks most adult relationships are alliances.
He suggests that after 30, with careers, families taking priority, most relationships tend towards alliances. There just isn't the same time for that deep emotional investment across the board.
Okay, that's a really pragmatic view. Almost. Transactional. Some people might hear that and think it sounds a bit cynical, maybe cold. How does he square that with the fact that kids do need genuine connection, not just strategic alliances?
That's a really fair point. And I think his philosophy isn't about avoiding friendship. It's more about shifting the focus purposefully.
Yeah.
The goal isn't just passively finding friends like you might in a schoolyard. The focus is on actively building oneself into a high-value person so others want to be their ally.
So it's about becoming someone others want to connect with based on substance.
Exactly. It's a proactive, almost entrepreneurial approach to social life. And he explains how he facilitates this. He sends his kids to martial arts, music lessons, diving, driving classes.
Like the extracurriculars.
But interestingly, he says the primary goal isn't even necessarily to become an expert diver or musician.
Oh, then why?
It's for the exposure to different environments, different kinds of people, so they learn to interact, build respect, find shared interests, and naturally form a network of, well, allies, people connected through genuine shared activities.
So it's actually promoting intentional social connection, just not in the maybe chaotic, random way it happens at school.
That seems to be the idea. Purposeful engagement over passive proximity.
Okay. So for listeners out there, maybe intrigued but thinking, okay, this sounds intense. Is it even practical for someone who isn't a millionaire?
He does address some common doubts, right?
Yes, yeah, pretty directly. So first one, qualifications needed. Do you need a teaching degree?
And the answer, a clear no, according to him. What matters, he emphasizes, isn't the degree, but really understanding your educational goals and then actively finding the right materials and methods. Being the architect, not necessarily the soul builder.
Okay. And the big one, lack of social skills.
He doubles down, saying it's just not an issue if parents are proactive, if they get kids involved in those extracurriculars, skill classes, community stuff. It definitely doesn't mean, quote, locking them in four walls.
Right. It requires effort from the parent. What about working parents? This can't possibly work if both parents have demanding jobs, can it?
He actually says it doesn't mean someone has to be home 24/7. Learning can be scheduled. Evenings, weekends, you can bring in relatives, tutors.
So it's flexible.
The key, he insists, is the parent setting the curriculum, defining the goals, and maintaining that oversight, even if they delegate some of the teaching.
Okay. And finally, just to reiterate, making friends.
He confirms, yes, absolutely. Kids will make friends through all those activities, martial arts, music, whatever it is. It's about the quality of those interactions, he suggests. Maybe more than just the sheer quantity you get in a large school.
Okay. So let's circle back then to that friend's incredulous question right at the start. Are you crazy?
Yeah.
The author's answer makes a lot more sense now in context, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I'm not crazy. I'm just looking at the world's reality and choosing a more suitable path for my child.
It's not about sheltering them, in his view. It's about this incredibly intensive, personalized training, focused laser sharp on the core skills he believes are essential for survival and success in the real world, the future world.
And he has this vision of the end result, right? The complete warrior.
He does. He sums it up. With language to travel the world.
With mathematics to master money.
With science to see through the truth.
With martial arts to protect oneself and family.
And with communication skills to win over hearts. It's a very complete picture.
And he seems really confident that with this foundation, his kids can choose whatever path they want, singer, engineer, anything, and they'll be the most excellent version of themselves in that field.
Yeah, that foundational toolkit is what matters to him. For him, he concludes, look, it might not be the only path, but for his goals, for his family, it is the most correct path to forge a superior generation.
Quite a vision. So it leaves us with a final thought, maybe. If the traditional school system, as he argues, was largely built to create factory workers, and the world now clearly demands innovators, problem solvers, critical thinkers, what fundamental pillar of education do you listening out there believe is most overlooked today? And maybe more importantly, how can we start to address that gap?